To go up there, and then
What do you think? Are you worried they were going to like ask you to
do stuff? Hi everybody, welcome to Someplace Underneath.
I'm Natalie Jean.
I'm Amber Nelson.
Folks,
we're talking about this bar I like to frequent in Hollywood called Bordner's. It's like an old school bar, and I would tell people, and they would like, whoa, and then I found out that there's a kink room right above it, and they're like, oh, you think I'm like a dom or something? I was like, I just like the cheap drinks. I didn't know.
Bad boy.
You bad boys. You bad. They also serve food, and I guess I've eaten at the kink buffet. It was delicious.
Yeah, you didn't question there was a nude person underneath the salami?
Just serving me like egg rolls.
I think you should start a whole core of dominatrix that is very like sweet. Because I only ever see very aggressive doms. What if you're just sort of like a mommy dom?
Oh, of just like, you've been a good boy, like that.
You've been a naughty boy.
You've been a naughty boy, but we're gonna get good together, and we just wear face masks and like talk about positivity.
Yeah.
Would men pay me for that?
Yes, absolutely, unquestionably yes.
Right in. Let's do a poll. Let's do a poll already. Would men pay for positive kink shaming?
Or kink affirmations.
Kink affirmations. That's it.
We gotta probably start this pretty quickly because there's so much, and I don't even think we're going to get to all of it, but I will probably just keep it into this episode. I don't know if you guys have seen, hi everybody, how much was just released about the behind the scenes of the Jodi, their names are always getting Jodi Hildebrandt, Ruby Franke, not Jodi Franke, Ruby Hildebrandt.
Yeah, two different ladies.
Two ladies, one soul, two different jail cells now.
Oh, good.
They just released all of the sealed evidence from the trials because they've now been sentenced, even though that still in Utah means next to nothing because it's really up to the parole boards. They could get up to 30 years or down to 4. So it's like not really a sentence the way it works there.
Oh my God, because it's something to do with the state laws?
It's something to do with the way that laws are processed in Utah, that once a sentence is given out, it's really a wide span of years, and then the people who are on the parole board really get to call the shots between these wide gaps.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But I feel like once kids are involved, they should have the big guys coming in. Or fuck them kids, right?
Well, I don't know which the big guys are, but
like Joe Biden, you should come in and give her a talking to. Hey, you just stop it with them kids.
Sniffing hair. Yeah, maybe he just needed to give them a little talking to. It might have helped something. 78% of chat says yes, men would pay for a nice dom.
Yes,
okay,
you've been such a good boy. We're gonna celebrate.
I'm gonna slap your balls around.
That's right.
Because you've been such a good boy.
I'll whip you with the Twizzlers.
Ooh.
That you know.
So you get candy also?
You do get candy. You get a little candy bag at the end.
Oh,
right.
Man.
But yeah, I'll tell you who didn't get candy is the people in this case.
No, they didn't actually. Not at all. You guys have probably at least heard of the case, or maybe you know everything about the case. I obviously am very connected to this case based on our show, and just it's something that I find extremely fascinating, and I hope you guys do too. But I wanted to just kind of go over, we learned some shit from the unsealing of all these documents, and I'm going to say at the top, this is a little bit of a trigger warning, but we are not going to be showing any of the body cam footage of the kids because that was released.
I saw it, and it was very traumatizing for me.
Yeah.
The girl that ate at the kink buffet. I was traumatized.
Yeah, it's bad, and I feel kind of torn about. I kind of wish they didn't release that. Whatever, they did. So we're not showing any of that. We're not showing the wounds, which has also been released. I mean, you can't unsee it. If you can easily find it if that's what you really want to do, but it's something that you can't unsee. It's it's like it looks like they look like prisoners of war.
If you're new to this case, this was like a mommy vlogger that would always show her kids. I never saw the show. I'm looking at the show now and being like, how, thank God now they blur the kids' faces. But she's just so angry all the time and talking about disciplining her kids and how they're not, there was one, she punished them, but they weren't agreeable to the suffering enough. So
talking about Ruby Franke, yeah.
Yes, so she took away their presents, and like this is supposed to be the model mother. Crazy. Come to find out, she was torturing them the whole time.
At least part of the time. But yeah, so you probably know if you follow this case, they're a member of the family's all members of LDS Church. So is the therapist who's being charged with these crimes alongside the mother. They're heavily involved in the church. And Jodi is a therapist / life coach using LDS doctrine, essentially, but then just sort of like cranking it up a couple notches. Just adding some little cayenne in there. Unfortunately, that is true, and I didn't even mean to put that in there, but she did use cayenne pepper on the kids. So we're going to get into that a little bit. So we've gone over all of these facts for a long time already on the show, but we just got all this new dump of information, and it really kind of opens your eyes to the mindset of the adults in this situation, how much the magical thinking that they were a part of distorted their sense of right and wrong, and how it was sort of encouraged by their church community. It wasn't that much different than all the people around them were thinking.
Didn't kids go to church show up with like tape on their mouths? And they were like, okay, like if I saw a kid with tape on their mouth, 911, like I'd call somebody or talk to the parent. I'd be like, what is this?
Yeah, that was from our episode covering Jodi Hildebrandt, which is the niece or nibbling of Jodi Hildebrandt. Jodi has been, we'll get into this here a little bit, but she's been doing this for decades, and Jesse experienced that in church, and the bishop at that church essentially laughed about it and told Jodi to continue to do it to break her, because they were like, that person, Jesse, they go by them, was like a horse to be broken. So it was not really that out of the realm of what was already happening around them. I will say that.
It's all about breaking people, and then they become adults and they're unhappy, and then they have children and they just treat them like they're monsters.
Yeah, I think there's some of that. I think that this is a cocktail of a lot of elements, but as a lot of people have already noticed, there's a huge connection between what they did and what Lori Vallow did to her. What it said she got all the way to murder, which these kids were headed towards death. But similar doctrine, similar books they read, similar community circles, and similar dialogue to justify the torture and abuse and killing of
Children,
literally children. So let's just cut over to this first slide over, if you want to send it over my way. So this is just, again, this is something we've been covering for a long time. There was a amount of days after the trial where some of this stuff that we're about to check over was sealed, and then after those days were done, they unseal it to the public so that we all see it, some of which I think didn't need to go, but whatever. So first we want to go, this is Ruby. Ruby's the mother. She is currently in prison, and she is the mother of the 2 victims plus the other 4 children. So she has 6 kids total. Former mommy vlogger, current mommy inmate.
Ooh.
Went from being righteous and smug on the day of the arrest to, this other, she kind of shifts. So if you just want to take a look at this first video, you can see how her attitude was on the day of the arrest for the abuse of her kids.
Do you want to talk to me about where you live or how many kids you have?
The blinking.
So we just spoke with your husband, and he said you guys have 6 kids. Are those all together? Are those all your kids?
She's like vaguely catatonic.
I can wait all day, so it's up to you if you want to talk to us about what's going on.
She still has that sort of smirk on her face, though.
Yeah.
Would you feel more comfortable talking to one of us?
Or do you want me to, I can step out if you want?
Or if you feel more comfortable talking to him, I can step out.
I'll wait till I have a lawyer.
Okay.
Oh, that's understandable.
So you don't want to talk to us at all?
Yeah. That part's not that.
The most upsetting thing
This is her
is
being
that I
taken
am
away from
completely
the house,
misunderstood.
Jodi's house.
That is the most horrible feeling. Like my own family misunderstands me. They misinterpret me. And poor Jodi, they misinterpret her. They misunderstand her. She puts her neck out on the line for people, and then they get mad at her. I mean, it is just horrendous. It's horrendous. God told me. God told me when I was driving before I called you. I didn't have any information. I didn't know anything, and the Spirit said, your children are going to be removed. And I cried out loud. I'm like, no, I'm not done. I'm not ready. And God told me I'm done. And I just, so.
That is an early jailhouse call of hers. This is like the day after
Satan
she
has
went
taken
into
everything
the
away
jail.
from me that I love. And I'm a good woman. I don't do naughty things.
I don't do naughty things.
I don't do naughty things.
You mean like duct
I'm a
tape your
really
kids?
good girl.
So if you caught that at the end, first off, she says it's Satan that's causing her to be arrested. And then if you want to come back to the little slide I have here, she says she, quote, doesn't do naughty things and that she is a, quote, good girl. So a little bit of like infantilization of herself in that moment. Naughty things is such a weird thing for an adult woman to say.
Like, I'll say that as a joke when I'm eating a piece of candy. You know what I mean? Not when I lock my children in a basement.
Yeah. You know, not to be edgy, I feel like that's bad to do.
Right.
Yeah, so Raccoon Barbie, she is definitely what I would consider not to be a good person. That was the same person who didn't bring her 5-year-old daughter lunch to school when she didn't pack it herself. And yeah, religious freedom is a little bit different than handing over the reins and just going like, well, I can use this idea of spirituality to do whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
So she says she's not a naughty person, even though you have to remember this is the day after she was arrested for her children were on the brink of death. They were tortured on a daily basis. In her mind, of course, she's in that space where she's justified this, so she doesn't consider herself, I guess, naughty in those actions.
She's naughty that she got caught.
Yeah.
That's it.
The use of the word naughty, just like, I do feel like she's been so insulated and insular inside of this community, because she got married when she was like 19 to Kevin, and she just started having kids, you know, and she didn't like expand her world in any way. You can have kids young and still go other places and meet people, but
Right. Or you can just like stay in your hometown. That's cool, but have some sense of like right and wrong.
it's hard to if you don't have any perspective, I feel
Right.
like. I don't know. So she went to acting repentant after, like, so basically for the first month, let's say, she was tripling down, digging her heels in. And then after she spent some time away from Jodi in prison, she started acting repentant. Even after denouncing Jodi, she, however, takes very little accountability for her actions and definitely considers herself a victim in the situation of Jodi now. So after she's flipped after a month in jail, she's like, oh, Jodi's bad, she's wrong. I'm also her victim, right? So this next audio clip we're going to listen to, it's phone calls with her parents on October 27th, which is a couple months after she was arrested, then her husband and her sister in December of last year.
I can't say everything that I want to say, but I really did feel like the arrest was like a rescue. Like I just felt so many angels around, and it was like a relief. It was just really kind of surreal.
So her parents are
Absolutely.
very
I could
enabling,
not
in
come
my
out of this
opinion.
without his grace, without his mercy,
without his help. This has been the strangest and the most miraculous intervention. It put everybody where they needed to be. It separated me from Jodi, so I'm not hearing her. And I think just being gone and not hearing her has cleared a lot of things up for me.
But I think in the interview it's going to be apparent that she's mentally ill. And so that will affect how long someone, because they're looking, how repentant are you? How much responsibility are you taking? How are you aware that what you've done is wrong? And she's not. She's the only reason she pled is because she didn't want to do life. She knew I would testify. I think putting the pieces together and just seeing, like, she knew she was lying the whole time. Like, and it's embarrassing too to like repeat it. It's like, oh my gosh, how gullible was I? Oh my gosh, how much power I gave this person, and I didn't see it. But when I realized, maybe a month into it, maybe not even that long, he's like, Jodi denies everything. She denies having anything to do with this. And I was shocked. I was like, what? And I'm still telling Lamar, like, all of the justifications and all of the, I'm talking like a criminal. I sound like a mad person. He was so patient with me. He was so patient with me. He would just look at me and, like, kind of dumbfounded, like I said, 2 + 2 is 7, and I really believed it. And he would just stare at me. I'm like, what am I saying that's so off? That's because I really believed it. But then when I heard that Jodi was not talking like that, she was denying the whole thing, it told me she knew all along. It's like a little kid who doesn't know it's wrong to pee in their underwear. Like, they don't know. They're not embarrassed by it. It's like, oh, I was supposed to pee in the toilet? Oh, oops. But you get a 6-year-old. You get a 6-year-old who knows they're supposed to pee in the toilet, and they're peeing down the heater vent. They're going to try to hide it.
The 6-year-old, I guess. And she's the big one.
And that's when I realized she knew all along.
These are extremely compacted, like abridged versions of these conversations. You can find all of this online at this point. I really recommend Hidden True Crime. They've done a good job of, like, just showing you, if you want to go through the entire calls, all of the interrogations, but it's like several hours worth. But if you heard in that last bit, she is still kind of infantilizing herself in there. She's saying, I'm just a baby. I didn't know what Jodi was doing. I'm just a little baby girl. And it's this magical thinking that I do think is the last thing that she needs right now. Because it's been like, God told me to abuse my children. God saved my children from me.
That is spiritual.
God intervened.
That's spiritual psychosis, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not real. Like, I do have these, like, moments where I believe in God and I pray, but I'm never like, God told me I have to do this. Yeah. I always think about it for myself.
Yeah. And the simple fact she cannot acknowledge that her son saved himself and his sister, that it was God intervening, not that the son became this brave little kid who ran in the desert without shoes on.
Right. And you know what she would do to these kids? We're not going to show images because it's too much, but I guess if it's okay, just to tell you how bad it was. She would cut them and then put cayenne pepper honey solution all over the cuts to heal it, wrap that up with duct tape, wrap that up with some gauze, and then put more handcuffs on top of it. So they have cuts and handcuffs on top.
And that's just one of the things they were doing. And they were justifying it as they were exorcising demons, which is not actually very original, I will say, as far as parents torturing their children. That's said a lot in different fucked up situations. Yeah, she for sure has some narcissistic tendencies. I think we use that word a lot in general, but there's obviously massive ego issues, and something's going on. But also, that behavior, in my mind, in my opinion, is it's justified by a lot of their, I'm not trying to come after LDS specifically, but you have to understand during all of this, there was church involved in many ways, including these women were seeing their bishops and receiving their blessings and like being encouraged in a lot of ways, and nobody acted like what they were doing. They talk about demons and angels and stuff like that so casually in these communities. It can make you kind of lose sense of reality, obviously. Because I do think that on one level, Ruby did believe what she was saying. I do think she has a lot of spite and contempt and like anger underneath all of it, but I do think she believed some of the stuff she was doing, and it was not being stopped by anyone in their community.
Yeah, what's that called? Where complicit in crime, not complicit, but like you're kind of egging it on. What's the word, like the legal term?
You mean like an accessory?
An accessory. Like the pastor of that church should have been an accessory to this crime.
There's several people who should have been, in my opinion. And somebody, Winter V Cubed, where's these children's father? We'll talk about old Kevin in a little bit.
Because he could get custody of the kids, but he knew what was going on. So, no.
We'll see. I hope not. I really, really hope that doesn't happen. I personally think he should have also faced jail time, but there wasn't direct enough charges, I guess, legally. They couldn't.
Were divorced.
They weren't divorced.
They weren't? Oh,
no.
They were separated?
We'll get into that.
Okay.
So I'm not probably going to have time to go into our journal entries, but they recovered a bunch of stuff that they had been writing out, and Ruby's journal is filled. If there was anyone who was saying, oh, Ruby sounded, so sorry and apologetic, and how she must have been so taken for a ride by Jodi, because Ruby did her Oscars acceptance speech during her sentencing, where she was thanking all the cops and everything. Her journal, which we probably won't get to today, is filled with the sheer delight that she felt in hurting her children.
And it's like dated. It's dated accounts. Like, I don't know why. I guess if you wanted to get away with it, you wouldn't keep a journal, but maybe she wanted to get caught. I don't know why you would keep a journal in this kind of moment.
I think because it was, Jodi acted like they should be. Jodi was very convinced. We'll talk about Jodi here in a sec. She was very convinced that she is, the next Jesus, or what like so many people do when you're in a certain mental space. But so I think Ruby thought because Jodi was encouraging these behaviors that she was proud. She was proud that she was brave enough to, dump mop water on her son's head and make him stand in the sun without shoes on, or poke them with cactuses and call them slithering snakes who were deceiving. And she wrote all of these things out, and I hope those journals are shown essentially when she goes up for parole in 4 years. That's not enough time, in my opinion.
No. She should be nowhere near those children.
Well, no, and I don't think there will be any. If she gets out before all the kids are grown, I don't think there's any way she's going to ever have custody of them at the very least.
I hope. You never know with these things.
Let's go over to Jodi. So this is her fun little headshot. She is a, quote, therapist. She did go to college. She has a master's in something in mental health, in the mental health field, which is hilarious. She calls herself a psychiatrist several times. She is not a doctor. She's lying about that. She's a fellow member of the LDS Church. She operates under LDS mental health guidelines, but like I said, she kicks it up a notch, like Emerald Lagasse. So she takes really not accepted by any other mental health fields ideas that the LDS Church believes, which is like, if you look at porn once a month, you are a sex addict, and that you need to be, removed from your family, and all this. That stuff is widespread.
A lot of couples have divorced because of her.
Oh, yeah.
And then she would make the men believe, like, oh, I'm bad, I'm a sex addict, because they would, like, look at porn or jerk off.
Yeah. And I'm, they would also, it's that, the thing that I think really fucked Josh Duggar up, in my opinion, is that they would put that right next. They would conflate it with, oh, I was touching children in, whatever they call Sunday school at the LD. I'm touching little kids. But this guy is also masturbating once a month, and they are in the same category.
Right, because you're still sinning, and sinning is sinning no matter what. So if you're going to sin, it's kind of like, their mindset is like kind of like when I was 16, and I was like, oh, I guess if I'm past curfew, I might as well be really past curfew. Like, it's not the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Not really teaching healthy boundaries in any way. Just going, you don't do it, and you can't do it, and if you do any of it, you're just naughty.
Yeah.
Literally saying naughty as an adult.
And the fact that you like torture people, you're enabling them, like, how do I say this, like bad kinks, I think? Like you're
lot of
associating
times.
bad things with sex.
Crossing some wires.
Yes.
Might we say. We've learned that Jodi, I know that's not actual mental health stuff, guys. We're not actually practitioners in any
I'm
way.
a therapist.
I mean, I guess
kidding.
we can literally be life coaches. There's no regulations for it. So
There's none.
Let's be it. Let's just be it, not dream it. So we've learned that Jodi came to Ruby a couple years ago after staying with another LDS family that is connected to all of them, who claims that while, and let me say this, during all this, Jodi has this multi-million-dollar mansion, but regardless, Jodi is living with this other family who's in her therapy, another weird boundary that should not exist. That should exist, I mean. So Jodi has this group called Connections, which is the thing that Ruby was doing with her whenever they were arrested. One of the other families involved with that was housing Jodi because Jodi was upset. And this is all stuff we're learning through these phone calls and these interviews just released. So Jodi was staying with this other family, and that family is claiming that during that stay with them that she was self-harming. Trigger warning about self-harm because she apparently is a prolific cutter. And that's why she always has jackets and sweatshirts on.
I feel like the word prolific should be used after like a runner or something really good.
Well, yeah,
You
probably.
know what I mean? You swam, you're a prolific swimmer. You swam the Atlantic Ocean, not like cutting yourself.
Yeah, and the only reason I would say that is that it seems like it is a lifelong...
Right.
She's in her 50s and is, I believe, been doing it most of her adult life.
Wow.
At least that's what people are saying. So also Jodi was allegedly making advances at the husband in the family where she was staying. So whenever Jodi starts really integrating herself into the Frankies' lives, it was several years ago, which we saw happen on the Channel 8 Passengers. We saw her behaviors being utilized for the, like at the kids, remember the beanbag chair and all that? That was all under the guidance of Jodi.
She took away her son's bed and
Ruby
made him
did,
sleep
yeah.
on a beanbag chair.
For many months. There's so many abuse allegations, and that's just the like tip of the iceberg on that.
Yeah.
But what happened, as we've learned now through these phone calls, is that Kevin was slowly first moved out of his bed, and Ruby and Jodi were sleeping together in the Frankie's house. And then Kevin, the husband, was eventually pushed out of his house completely. And it just became Jodi and Ruby living with the children. So this happened a couple years ago. I think that was the early summer of 2022 when all of that was happening. So Kevin got moved out of the house. As per Kevin, her arms are, quote, mutilated. And he also says that she doesn't take baths and that she smells horrible at all times.
She doesn't look like she'd smell bad.
Why?
I don't know. She does. She looks like she takes 2 showers a day, but I guess I'm wrong.
She has luxury showers all through her $5.3 million house, but apparently she doesn't. And pure speculation, it could be because if she has self-harming tendencies, she doesn't like to see herself. I'm
They
not
might
sure.
have to heal and stuff, you know.
That's just complete speculation based on several things I've experienced. But so yeah, why is a mental health practitioner living with the family they are counseling? Final Angie, that is everybody's question. It seems as though through many testimonies and interviews throughout, we covered a couple of them on the Proper Show. She's been doing this for decades. She's done this to family after family, and it is normalized within their community. So she's been recommended by the church for decades.
It's almost like, thank goodness she was born a woman, because if she was a man, it would be way many more cases.
And also, this is an extraordinary thing for her to be a woman in this community and get this much respect
Yeah.
and in authority. At least in their part of LDS Church that's in Salt Lake City area. That she's kind of put up there on a pedestal when most women are not really given that opportunity. So, like I've said before, they were right. You know, we gave a lady a chance.
And we fuck it up
Look
every
what
time.
happened.
Look what happened.
So, yes, many life coaches in religious circles. It's part of that anti-medicine thing that is sort of far, I wouldn't even call it left, like crunchy, new age, and extreme right wing, which
it's
they
like
come together.
Right here, yeah.
There's a lot of life coaching that you don't believe in doctors, go to a chiropractor for some reason, but not a doctor. And so it's very similar to that where, you know, they're not really dealing with real mental health counseling.
No.
They're not dealing with a lot of, especially in the last couple of years, their kids were not receiving any health care because the 2 women would have been arrested.
Didn't the guy who invented chiropractic, like he said a ghost told him?
Yeah, the guy who originally created the majority of chiropractor practitioning,
Yeah.
says that he learned it from the spirit of a doctor who had already died.
Cool.
Who came to his house and talked to him.
Snap on my neck. You heard a ghost say it first.
A ghost said it. Okay. But twist. What if the ghost just wants more ghosts made?
Natalie, you're so smart.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this is with Jodi. Like I just said, there's been decades of torture accusations from various people. We've covered one, which was Jessie, her nibbling, and another one is Adam Steed, who we covered on a full episode, who I admire greatly. His life was ruined by her a while back, maybe like 10, 15 years ago. She is still recommended, up until her arrest, she was recommended by bishops and church authorities to give out therapy. Not only that, the church would often volunteer. This is another issue, I feel like, in the church that is not addressed a lot. The church recommends counseling for people who come to the bishops and ask for help. And they offer it, and they say, we'll pay for it, but you have to go to these
One of our
specific guys. One of them is Jodi. And they will pay for it from essentially your tithings. So everybody's money that goes into the church pays a lot of Jodi's salary, which is why she has millions and millions of dollars.
A lot of times churches will offer stuff for free, and you got to really look at that fine print. I saw one where this woman was like, if your parents are elderly and religious, look over their will, because sometimes the church will do their will for them. And then you read through the fine print and the church will take your house.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's free.
The weed wife demanding my therapist move in with me ASAP. I know, maybe we should try it. You know, I'm shooting it down. I've never asked my therapist to move in with me.
Move in. Eleanor Condepat 69. So it is widespread abuse. Yes, it is.
Yes.
It's a lot.
I mean, in my opinion, it is.
It's just not really being covered on local news outlets, but not like where and why.
But I think it's also partly what we consider to be abuse, and sometimes how, if it's within the spiritual realm, we're just starting to, as a society, understand spiritual abuse and religious abuse, because we've taken that to be very normal. We've normalized it. We accept it. We accept child marriage because of it.
That's right.
That's
I think
usually who's preventing those laws from changing is usually religious for religious reasons.
I think we're just understanding abuse. I mean, you take 100 years ago, people didn't.
Totally. No, I agree. And I think that it's not the religion or the spiritualism itself. It's that people see that who want to hurt people and go, an easy place for me to go in and do this.
Yeah.
So that's happening all around Jodi and Ruby, in my opinion, plus there is evidence of it. But yes, so Corona del Sol, self-harm and poor hygiene, sounds like she was abused as a child, not that it excuses her actions, and it's sad. I agree with all of that. There has been some, we've been able to see a little bit into her childhood. She did write a book called You Are Not Enough. Great title.
You Are Not Enough.
And she talks about her childhood, and that we have to take that with a grain of salt because she has very provably lied a lot. But she does say that she was molested and that her father didn't support her. And I'm like, well, who hasn't had that happen? You know, okay. But seriously, I'm sure there was some really bad stuff in her childhood. But
at a certain point, as an adult, it becomes your responsibility. And I hate to say that because I feel for you, but you have to take responsibility for your actions now as an adult.
It's true, especially when you're harming everybody else around you.
Right.
So her home became the site of all of these horrific things that have been happening, and it was raided after the boy who we're calling R escaped. And she embodies full victimhood in this first. Well, we'll just play this video, and you can see for yourself.
Contact. Got movement. Open the door. Jodi,
Look at this door.
I need you to step out.
I have my turn.
That's great. Step out of the house.
No, I'm not going to step out of the
Step out of the
house.
house. Step out of the house.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
We're just gonna
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait a minute, how do you come in my house?
Right there.
Look, they go on into my house.
Just have a seat right there.
Do you have a search warrant?
Have a seat right there.
Do you have a search warrant?
Have a seat right there.
How long you lived here in Highlands?
The same day.
6 years. The same house? Wow. You married? Single?
Where'd you move from?
Utah County.
And how long were you up there for?
I'm a little nervous.
You're you know, to be honest with you, if I was sitting over there, I'd be a little nervous too, so.
So I trust my attorney. He said, don't say anything. And I said, I have nothing to hide. And he's like, I know that, but just let me be there with you when we talk. So you guys seem nice people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to be difficult. This is really, if you knew all the pieces, I think you'd have a lot of empathy for what's going on.
We're not going to use
My
anything
attorney
against you.
would be so insistent that he's an honest, good man, goes to church. I trust him. Why would he say that to me then?
Talking about her lawyer.
I don't know your attorney, to be honest.
Well, I'm just saying he's
He's
a
a
good,
good
honest
man.
man.
Yeah, I don't
and I'm
know.
an honest person as well, so we get along great. And he just said, do not say anything.
Maybe just as an attorney, they
always say that.
they always want to be with their client. I'm not sure, but like I said, at any time, if you don't want to answer a question, you don't have to. So the ball's really in your court on what you do want to answer and what you don't. So,
Well, I think it looks bad that I don't want to answer anything, but it's not because I'm trying to be difficult. I'm really hanging on what he told me to do.
Yeah, who's your attorney?
Adam,
Can't remember his name.
Wow.
The trustworthy man that she has in her corner. Can't remember his
She
name.
looks like a crazy bitch. I mean, I hate to say that, but she looks like a crazy bitch.
She's not well. I would not say that she's well. That looks like a door to anthropology, Raccoon Barbie. Yes, it did. Yeah. So it's interesting. She says the thing about empathy. That's one of the things she brings up a lot in her teachings, which is just so baffling and so, like, it hurts your head to think about the way her mind is so twisted. She thinks that she said this directly, that the kids needed to go through these things because they weren't having enough empathy. And so she uses the term empathy, but uses it to torture people.
It's empathy for me, not empathy
Yes.
for thee,
Yeah.
basically. Like, oh, but think about what I went through.
Yeah.
And uses it as a word to, like, justify hurting children.
It's true. But yes, she really gets into people's minds. I've said this many times, everybody's got somebody who could convince them to do something crazy.
Right.
We all do. She's not mine, but a lot of people have talked about how she just can burrow in and convince you the sky. Her own daughter said, I can't talk to my mom because if I did, she would convince me the sky was green and I would believe her. So she doesn't have any contact with her mother.
Whoa.
Yeah, narcissists know empathy inside and out in my experience. Yeah, she's definitely using it to her advantage, I guess, for whatever crazy thing she's trying to get done.
God, these people, they're just like, I'm always right, and why would you ever question me? And then boom, 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 they just keep going, and they'll never stop, and then think, is what I'm doing right or wrong? Have any kind of reflection? It's like, I gotta go, and you're wrong, and you're wrong, and you're wrong.
Do you think it's because if they could self-reflect, it would just be like
crumble, everything would crumble.
Yeah, it'd just be like a haunted, amusement park in there, and just like,
Right.
oh no.
It's a bridge built on rotted wood. Is basically that's her spirit.
Yeah. So her, what I would consider to be her true self, comes through in the jailhouse calls. Because if you just saw that video, she's kind of controlled. She's doing the I'm just a little woman. I'm little. I don't know. I'm just trying to help everybody.
God, and just like when the cops came to her house, just this like, do you have a warrant? You can't come in here. Like, yes, they can.
I put that at the beginning just as a little treat for everybody. Watch her get yanked out of her house. I don't believe in police brutality. But
Not brutality, but if you're harming people actively, then someone should come and get you and take you away from society.
well, especially because in that moment they were trying to find the other child who was
Yes.
missing, essentially.
The audacity. Do you have a warrant? No, bitch.
Nah, bitch. So she's going into that sort of mentality during all of that the original few days. She's very calm. She's doing maybe you should feel sorry for me though. I don't have anything to hide, because I don't think she actually, in that moment, I think she doesn't think she's hiding anything. Like, she's doing things that are good, but she also knows it's bad because she's hiding all of it.
Right.
So it's this, it must be so hard inside of that. I feel bad for her, actually. No, I don't. I was kidding.
Natalie, wow. I was like, okay.
It's
we'll do a
probably
spin.
pretty fucked up in there, I will say,
Yeah.
in her head. So then let's listen to a little bit of her jailhouse calls when she's in the slammer.
So he said, now the brother shall betray the brother to death, and the father the son. Like the father will betray the son. And the children shall rise up against their parents and shall cause them to be put to death. That statement right there is what's going on with me. The children shall rise up and put their parents to death, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. I mean, I probably cried for an hour straight. Just everything clicked, and I said, "I'm
Always scripture.
happy to go to prison." Because if you continue to read the rest of the chapter, he's like, "Be grateful. If you're in this situation, be grateful because you're grateful, and you will be saved." And then I connected it to my blessing, because my blessing I've been reading like several times a day. And the blessing is pretty.
Get back to her blessing.
Pretty clear. The first paragraph of it says, these are words directly to you from your Heavenly Father, and according to your faith and diligence, they'll either be a comfort to you or they won't be. So however much diligence and faith you want to put in them. And then the next paragraph talks about. It says, you are a special spirit, chosen and reserved for these last days, and sent forth to the earth in great clouds of glory to share the gospel and prepare the people for the return of the Savior. You will be a great tool in the hand of the Lord in teaching the gospel to many. So the whole paragraph about an example, I'm like, well, what's a better example than to go to prison unjustly? And then go teach the gospel.
Listen to this part.
Yeah.
Plan on doing it.
Yeah, and that's super cool. That lady that's Jewish that you've met, and what a neat thing.
Yeah.
Be able to share with her.
Nightmare here, Dennis. Nobody wants the truth. Nobody wants the truth. Nobody wants the truth because these kids. I told Doug. I woke up, the Spirit told me, it's all the devil. I mean, you've seen him. I mean, I've known you, for 5 years? You've watched him come at me. Mm-hmm. And you're exactly right, because he knows I know what he's doing. And he uses these kids. And he uses all of us as the adults, the parents, that don't hold the kids accountable. So now it's abusive to make a kid sleep on the floor. It's abusive, or it's abusive to, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You can't even raise your kids anymore.
Wow. So she thinks she's totally fine, and she kind of thinks it's a gift that she's going to go preach in prison.
Well, yeah, I don't know why it didn't take up the other side of the audio in the clip I just did, but the other person who is unidentified, she's talking to a man in that prison call. You guys can find it online. She says about how she's happy to be in prison because she's spreading the word. And he literally says, like that Jewish woman we met, and she goes, yeah. So she thinks it's all justified because she can then proselytize to a Jewish woman and give her the word. So this is all for a purpose.
Right.
You know,
right? Everything happens for a purpose.
Yeah, she's helping. She was torturing children to death, but that Jewish woman definitely needs her gospel.
This is sick.
Yeah,
these people are sick.
And let me get back to, because the scripture thing, Messiah complex much, and it's using scripture out of context. Penny Lane 86, Distal 553. And not beyond that. The blessing thing is really an interesting part of LDS stuff to me. So you essentially get like your zodiac, your horoscope, your fortune cookie given to you by a bishop, and you get a blessing. And they say, like, I talked over her, but in her blessing, she's called a special spirit.
Snowflake.
Yeah, no, not a snowflake. No, this is way different. It's a special spirit, Amber. It's different than that. And so the bishop's blessing she uses to directly justify everything that she does and has done, because she's special and because she's supposed to talk to the people and she's going to go to heaven, at the highest heaven. Yes, and as this says here, she believes she's a, quote, special spirit, and she also has a pet lion that she rides in heaven.
A pet lion that she rides in heaven?
Yep. His name's Charles. That's not me making that up.
What?
Yeah.
How was she allowed to teach people in church?
Because that's not that far off from the regular doctrine. I'm sorry. It's not that different.
These people are fucking I'm sorry, I know I've said it before, but like,
I do think that it's a little bit, I'm not trying to come at everyone.
Not everybody in that religion, but it's just her and like everybody. Sorry, I don't mean to like throw everyone in that religion down the well, but someone who's saying this is wrong, and she has spiritual psychosis. She needs help mentally. She needs to be put away. She doesn't need to be teaching kids. And just like Tank Girl Jet Girl says, everything's a lesson when you refuse to learn.
Sounds a lot like something somebody would say who was possessed by Satan. Amber.
Free will.
So beyond that, yes, it's funny to laugh at the weird things that she says happened to her, but she also blames, because of these things, she blames the kids for their life-threatening injuries.
Of course, everyone else is to blame.
And she like openly says in one of the calls, they're saying we caused all these wounds on these kids. Yeah, we did tie them up, but they wiggled around. They caused the injuries because they're demons and they're possessed. So I didn't do that. They caused their injuries. That's what she says in the call. We're getting out of time. I want to go over to little Kev. So Kevin is not in jail. Jodi and Ruby are currently in jail. This is the father. He is the husband of Ruby Franke. He's the father of the victims, and he was a professor at BYU. He was also a part of 8 Passengers, their family channel, mostly just by being in them. It was definitely all run by Ruby. Their names are too similar.
I mix them up, their names all the time.
It's a little bit of a mix them up. But yeah, Ruby ran the channel and Kevin participated in the videos that they
Penny
made.
Lane 086 says realtor looking ass.
He
does look like a realtor.
So, in very much a BYU headshot looking ass as well. This is you would look at this and be like, that man is a professor at a conservative college.
Right.
So Jodi kicked him out of his house, like we mentioned, once Jodi and Ruby started sleeping in the same bed, and then told him he had to leave. At that point, he stopped seeing, speaking to, or checking in on his children, and it was over a year. So this was in 2022. They were arrested in 2023 in the end of the summer. And this entire time, he did not one time check to see if his kids were okay. He didn't say hi to them. He didn't look in at them. He didn't try to go meet with them because of what Jodi and Ruby said. But I have my own feelings about him doing that.
He got a Corvette. He's driving around with the top down, getting them teenage girls in the car.
Well, it's funny because essentially Jodi was saying he's a bad father because he talks about he masturbates once a month. He wants to have sex with his wife. He wants her to wear lingerie, and that's not okay. And so they sent him to an apartment to live by himself where definitely no middle-aged men masturbate. On a bachelor pad, that's the place you're going?
Yeah.
To stop that? Cool. So they kick him out. Yeah, lucky Mickey ears. That's what a lot of people feel, and same with me. I don't care what a therapist is telling me. How do you check out for a year and not even see if they're okay? Especially because you knew extremist behavior was happening. I do think he was also indoctrinated, but he knew the kids were already being punished extremely severely, and he signed off on it. So that day of those arrests, he shows up after being tipped off by Ruby that there was a quote emergency and he needed to go get the kids from the police station. So this happened the same day they were arrested. This is the first time he thinks he's going to see his children in over a year, and she doesn't tell him anything else. The police do not call him because they're also wondering if he's a part of this because his children were all being tortured. So they didn't want him to come to the police station, but when he shows up, he won't tell them who told him to come to the police station, but he thinks he's there to pick his kids up, and he doesn't know about their condition. And so I'm gonna want to play this clip. It might be I might have it cut off before it's over. I wish I could talk about his two interviews are some of the most fascinating new information we got from all of this.
Meow Masita says, when Kevin was being interrogated, they told him his son was emaciated, and he didn't know what that word meant.
Meow Mamacita, believe me.
Is he a professor at BYU?
Yeah, when I heard that, I was just like, what do you mean?
Tell you who's not emaciated, me after that kink buffet. Tell you what.
Yeah, I know this is like being a little like nitpicky, but how as a university professor do you not know the word emaciated? And Henry was sort of saying, I think maybe he's playing it down like he's just like, I don't know what's happening. I don't think so. I don't think he knows what that word is. And not everybody has to know every word, but if you're teaching at a university, that seems like a pretty basic word you should know.
Right.
Whatever. So
Whatever.
Let's listen to some of this, and maybe we'll cut it off a little early.
So are they all living with you, or?
No, I haven't seen them for over a year.
Any of them?
No, none of them.
For a year?
Over a year.
Okay.
I've been in a separation.
From who?
From my wife and family.
Home here in Canton, have you been to that home?
No.
You've not been to that home?
No, I don't know. I don't know what anything that's been going on.
Like this.
And did you ever try to reach out to the kids, drop by the home, or was there?
I honored the separation boundary that we agreed to.
So, what was your separation?
Contact.
Do you know a female named Jodi?
She is a therapist and a life coach, I know, and she's.
Do you respect her?
Do I respect her? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think she is a very honest, truthful person.
You respect Jodi.
You place value on Jodi?
I don't know what that means.
Like, do you value what she says and how she treats your wife a client of hers? Is your wife a partner of hers? Is your wife a roommate with her? Your kids are living in her house is what I'm trying to say.
I'm not aware of that, but I support their business efforts. I think it's a good...
So are you aware of how she disciplines the kids, or how she handles the kids with behavioral issues or anything like that?
No.
So you're unaware of how she does that?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of the physical condition of your children?
No. No. I've chosen to trust my wife with the children.
He doesn't ask, though, does he?
That was part of the agreement of our separation.
Okay.
All I'll say is,
well, you said you trusted her. You said that you think that she's. I asked you if you placed value on her, but you obviously.
She is an honest. I know her to be an honest and a trustworthy individual. And So yeah, I trust her.
Well, you're the custodial parent of these children. I don't see why we can't explain to you why we're involved. So I don't recall the exact time, but sometime before 11 o'clock today, we received a phone call from 911 on our dispatch that a 12 to 13-year-old boy was knocking on doors in a neighborhood asking for food and water, that he was severely emaciated, that he had skinny, scrawny, malnutrition, not enough food, not enough water to sustain life. So he had, he had duct tape on his extremities, on his hands, on his ankles, and those were covering rope burns that were used to tie him down. Take a second and think about what I just said. That's the condition of your son. Given that information, your son was taken to the hospital. A warrant has been applied and granted by the Department of Child and Family Services to remove both Russell and Eve from your wife's care. So no one right now is going to have access to these two children based on their physical condition.
You know how pissed the cop is.
Do you understand that?
I understand.
Would you condone that behavior?
Would I condone that behavior?
Not the right answer.
That's my job. My job is to find out your knowledge of the treatment of these
based on your
precious
description,
children.
no. Again, I don't know the details or I don't know what's going on, but as you described that sounds
horrible, horrible, disgusting. No human being should be treated like that.
What's going to happen with my wife? I love my wife.
No other questions about the kid.
I don't
Asks
know.
about his wife.
I'm being honest with you. I don't know. Haven't had an interview with
I
you.
don't think those charges against my wife.
Possibly.
I'm interested in all the facts.
But you understand our facts. Our facts are that you have a child that is emaciated, malnutrition.
You can cut it off here.
Wow, he never wanted to be a father. What parent, when you hear of your child that has been duct tape and bound, doesn't ask, are they okay? Where can I go find them? Has panic. He just kind of sits there and asks about his wife.
Well, if you listen to that interview, the police, because the cops specifically in the middle of that interview ask if he has any questions. He asks nothing about his children, to the point where the cops have to just start telling him. They go, well, you're the custodial parent, so I'll tell you where your kids are. He hasn't asked if they're okay. He hasn't, because they were asking about how he knew of the condition of the kids. He didn't ask what that means. He didn't ask. This was an uncut police interview of him learning about the condition of his kids, and there's no point in which he was even asking. He didn't even check. He didn't wonder what happened to them. The first thing he was concerned about was where his wife was, because he is fixated on Ruby.
Because she's his property. That's basically it.
And he does not show any consideration for his children in that entire interview.
Not everybody should be parents.
No.
No.
We can go a couple minutes over, right? Because we have a little bit till...
They say okay? Okay.
5 minutes. So... that interview in its entirety, if you have the time, it's really fascinating. And then his second interview is even more interesting, but we're not going to have time for that. I definitely recommend checking it out. Six Swirl, I'm telling you, this dude is on benzos or something. I mean, maybe it's possible, because LDS people are allowed to take prescription pills.
Really?
But they can't drink coffee. So,
Okay.
you know.
Because everybody has some addiction. Something.
Sure.
Sure.
Except for me.
Oh, really?
Yep.
You were addicted to flying high in the air and lighting yourself on fire.
I'm addicted to several things. I will say that.
Which, check out her, Natalie Jean, on Instagram. You can see her lighting herself on fire.
That sounds like a cry for help, but it's not. It's self-care.
It's self-care.
Yeah, so in the second interview, it's just audio. It is insanely fascinating, but a few highlights quickly from that. there's something called the pen papers, which turns out is Ruby documenting all of the prophecies that Jodi is getting. So they sit in a room together, and Ruby writes down all of the things that Jodi is saying, and those were believed by Jodi they're going to be added to the Bible. Okay.
Wow.
That
all right.
Kevin experienced, he says this in the interview, he experienced supernatural events when Jodi was staying with him that he believes happened. He said he heard people in the walls. He said they saw plates flying off the walls. She has him so convinced of her powers that he tells the police, I saw it. I don't know what to say. I saw all of these things happen. I heard all of these people in the walls and shit.
These poor kids, man.
They believed that they were performing exorcisms at the Franke household. So Kevin says also in that interview that he was helping exorcise demons from Jodi, that they were exorcising demons from the house, that they were participating in these like kind of crazy horror movie sounding things in the Franke household with the children in it.
I mean, the stuff with the camera on them is already caca. So imagine what it was like on like a Tuesday at 6 p.m.
And also the last thing, we don't have to go pull the screen back up. Pam Botcher, who was on camera with the other two children, we have body cam footage of her that day. She's way more connected to this than we're being led to believe, because multiple people have said that, but also Kevin in the interview says that Pam Botcher was there with Jodi and Ruby all the time during the exorcisms. She definitely is complicit in the child abuse, and in my opinion, which doesn't mean anything, but Kevin and Pam Botcher at the very least should also be facing charges. We don't have laws probably that would make that be the case, that they could be facing charges, but they should be, because they were participating in this, they were privy to it, or they turned their eyes from it knowing that something wasn't okay and justified it with doctrine and mental gymnastics. And it doesn't matter if you're responsible for 6 children, it doesn't matter if you are being manipulated by somebody. It's still, the consequences to those kids are the same, whether or not you thought you were doing the right thing. And I don't think you knew. I think at the end of the day, you knew something was wrong. Kevin. That's what I think. So,
looking at you, Kevin.
Adri, a dry 1412, first spun ever in amber. Your dress is gorgeous.
Thank you. I got this at a estate sale. It's a nighting gown.
Oh, it's a nightgown?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I just tuck it in my skirt.
Wearing lingerie as clothes is very in right now.
You could do whatever you want.
Thank you for the subs tonight. Let me thank for the subs, and then do you want to do a quick fun?
I'll just do it. I have one quick fun. I have 2 videos, but one is quicker.
Thanks for the subs tonight. Kassan Stan, Aunt Baby, Junk Kitten, and Johnny Blank. Let's get a little smile.
All right, so this is like a little quick one, and it's on my TikTok page. God bless TikTok. I hope they don't take it away, because we'll miss out on stuff like this.
Biden, please, Joe Biden, please, drop the prices of blue cheese. Joe Biden, please, Joe Biden, please, drop the prices of blue cheese. Joe Biden, please, Joe Biden, please, drop the prices of blue cheese.
That's exactly why we're not gonna have TikTok. Do you know the Chinese version of it? They don't get to see these kind of videos.
Right. They are suppressing our medicine.
That is a medicine for the soul, I guess.
It is. Honestly, when it popped up on my page, I was like, you know what? Thank you. Thank you. I think the world is kooky again, and I like it.
How'd they get that dog to do that?
How'd they get it to dance? This is fun. I mean, not really. This is horrible. I mean, it was fun to do. It's fun to expose it. I guess, like, if you're at church and you see kids with duct tape on their mouth,
don't just assume that it was, it was ordained by the Lord.
Right. Call CPS.
Probably.
Or something. And I know CPS has its problems, but like something.
Yeah, I don't know who to tell somebody.
At the end of the day, these poor kids are victims, because every single person in here, except for the children and the police, are under psychosis, spiritual psychosis.
I mean, the police,
schizophrenia.
The CPS was, and the police were called dozens of times, including by the eldest daughter, to rescue the children, and it was promptly ignored for a year.
Well, then I just don't call them. I don't know. I guess look out for each other. Try to be kind to each other. Maybe kids, it's good to like be a role model to them that's outside of their parents. Just be nice.
Yeah.
Like, how you doing, champ?
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Be a safe adult for kids.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all I got, man.
That's all I got too. We'll see you next Wednesday, 5 Pacific Standard Time.
If you want to stay for Tears of a Clown, it'll be 6:30, like to 25 minutes. And
Yeah.
Amber's coming back, talking about something extremely different.
The fuckability of serial characters. So stick around.